The freezing air rushed into my lungs, cramping them and making them shiver. It made it hard to hold the heavy dueling gun in my hand. But Andrew Jackson's hand was steady. It was not for nothing that the military nicknamed him Old Hickory for his fortitude and fearlessness. This is not the first time Jackson has held a dueling pistol in his hands. The maximum uncomfortable weighted weapon was a sawed-off front sight not designed for target practice. If a combat pistol had to be used for this purpose, Jackson, an avid duelist, would probably be dead by now. Old Hickory has a violent and irritable temper. To any insult to him or his wife, he reacted with all determination. Now there's Charles Dickinson across from him, who dared to insult Jackson's wife. Dickinson fired first. The rumble reverberated through the trees and rolled around. Jackson felt a blunt, hard blow to his chest, causing a sharp, stinging pain. Aware that he was wounded, Andrew Jackson, with military stamina, stood on his feet and raised his gun towards his opponent. His finger pressed the cold trigger, and the heavy weapon bounced in his hand, and clouds of smoke pinched his eyes. When the gray cloud of smoke cleared, Dickinson was already lying on the ground. His wound had been more fatal than Jackson's. Already then, Andrew sat up slowly, writhing in pain. The bullet had struck him in the chest, stopping dangerously close to his heart. It was the first bullet lodged in the body of Andrew Jackson, the future 7th President of the United States of America. Andrew jerked himself up onto the bed. The duel with Dickinson was a frequent dream of his, and a constant reminder of the pain in his chest. Jackson stood up and walked slowly to the window. His plantation, called Hermitage, was already teeming with life. When Andrew had bought it, there had only been 9 African-American slaves, but now there were about 150. Andrew Jackson championed the right to slavery in the United States for both terms. He used slave labor and believed it did not interfere with the democracy he had built. Looking out his window, Jackson had no idea that he would become one of the most controversial and influential presidents in American history. Now he was thinking about something else entirely. Andrew Jackson thought about the fact that he might not wake up today. These thoughts, like the pain all over his body, came to him constantly. He had severe lead poisoning, and Andrew is well aware of that. 2 lead bullets that don't reach his vital organs will still reach their target and kill him. It's 1845, and 78-year-old Jackson is finding it increasingly difficult to fight death. His wife Rachel died long ago, even before he became president. It was a stroke, and Andrew is confident that his campaigning drove his wife to this condition. The irony was that Jackson had never really fought for the high office. Looking at the slaves from the mansion window, Jackson remembered his childhood. He remembered it well, for it had been a very different, hard life. Andrew and his family literally had to survive and fight for their freedom. The elderly man closed his eyes and drifted back in time. Andrew Jackson was born on March 15, 1767. He never saw his father, for Andrew Jackson Sr. died suddenly 3 weeks before his son was born. With his brothers and mother, Andrew spent his childhood in the poor Waxhaws. It wasn't an easy life, but Jackson remembered it with a smile at times. With the other children of the colonists, he sought entertainment in his head. Had to study, of course, but his education in those years was instead watered down. And then the war came to the Carolinas. And with it, fear, hunger and despair, uncertainty and insecurity. 13-year-old Andrew is now the man of the house. His older brother Hugh has gone off to war, so he has to take on the hard work and care of the house. But all these trials seemed a trifle when the American military came to their doorstep. They handed Mom a letter, and then she wept. She couldn't say a word, so Andrew read the message himself. The piece of paper suddenly became as heavy as a tombstone. His older brother Hugh was killed at the Battle of Stono Ferry. It was hard to believe the war had touched his family, but his fear of the British suddenly turned to hatred. Despite his young age, Andrew left home and joined the militia, becoming a Patriot courier. That's when he received his first wound. The British captured him. Sitting in a dark, cold cell, Andrew involuntarily thinks of 1781 as the last for him and his brother Robert, who went with Andrew on his mission. Strength is almost gone, and his brother is not well at all. Andrew crawled over and covered his brother lying on the cold stone with his rags. It was smallpox. It was slowly burning the boys from the inside out. One day, a British officer approached Andrew. The Americans called them red uniforms because of the color of their uniforms. Andrew finds it hard to hide his hatred, but pompous British officers hit without hesitation for a leering glance. A British man and some soldiers entered the cell. The officer put one foot forward and ordered Andrew to shine his shoes. Andrew refused the officer and pushed his boot away. The lad caught only the movement of the Briton's hand and then the glint of steel and sharp, unbearable pain. The officer sliced Andrew's arm and half of his face with his saber, leaving scars for life. Robert was in bad shape when the Jacksons were released in a prisoner exchange. He died just a few days after his release. It wasn't long before Andrew's mother died after his brother. Cholera took her. Heavy memories brought Andrew back to reality. It was after he was orphaned at 14 that life began to change. His uncles brought him up, educated him, and in his late teens, he had already started to build a career as a lawyer. That's how he got out of poverty. He became not only a wealthy landowner, but also managed to serve as Tennessee's representative in the lower house of the U.S. Congress and as a Supreme Court justice in his state. But the hardships of his life were not over. Clutching his chest in pain, the elderly Andrew looked at his portrait hanging on the wall. In the frame was a statuesque and young military man. The title of National Hero of the United States, the nickname Old Hickory, all of which he had earned in the War of 1812. Lack of experience makes up for in the field. So it seems they told Jackson when they appointed him Major General of the Tennessee Militia. And they were right. Jackson had to summon up all the determination and wit to lead his soldiers into battle. On a March day in 1814, Jackson goes on the attack with his men. The Battle of Horseshoe Bend, hundreds and hundreds of Creek Indians allied with Britain and as many American soldiers on the battlefield. But the American militiamen went into battle without fear because they trusted Andrew Jackson with their lives. Hard as Old Hickory, they said of him, and Jackson knew it. Now, some of the warriors were running forward, shouting his nickname, and it was inspiring for Andrew himself. Taking his second bullet, he continued to fight. The battle was won. America gained 20 million acres of land. Andrew heard about it lying on a hospital couch. The field surgeons tried everything they could to get the bullet out, but they couldn't. If they try again, Andrew will bleed to death. That day, he hears of imminent lead poisoning. 2 bullets lodged in his body will kill him, and it's only a matter of time. The news has hardened Jackson. Time after time, he has led his warriors to victory, at times even exceeding his authority. For his military service, Andrew Jackson was named a National Hero of the United States and was also nominated for President in the Senate. Difficulties also awaited him on his way to the White House. Although Old Hickory won the popular vote in 1824, his opponent Adam won by a vote of the Electoral College and House of Representatives. Jackson did not seek power by any means, but Adams' victory shocked the people and the Jackson family. The Senate did not let this go unnoticed, and it soon emerged that Adams' victory had been rigged. Litigation, votes, and constant political intrigue ensued. All this affected not only Andrew, but also his wife, Rachel. She died of a heart attack in 1828, 2 months before Jackson's inauguration. The pain pierced his body again, and Andrew had to lie down. The random thought brought a strange smile to his face. There could have been more bullets in my chest. He closed his eyes and remembered January 30th, 1835. It was his second term as president. Andrew Jackson walks out of the Capitol after a memorial service. A mourning crowd had gathered around, dozens if not hundreds of people in black robes. Before anyone could even react, a troubled man ran out of the crowd right in front of the president. Andrew froze in place when he saw a small gold-plated pistol pointed in his direction. His assassin, breathing nervously and rolling his eyes madly, pulled the trigger. Jackson's chest clenched, but no shot was fired, a misfire. Then the killer fires again, and the gun misfires again. Andrew's anger burned through him. The stupor quickly subsided. He strode resolutely towards the would-be assassin and swung his cane at him. Then again and again. He beat the man until the president himself was dragged aside. The assailant turned out to be the insane painter Richard Lawrence. It was the first assassination attempt on a president in U.S. history. The memories took a lot out of Andrew. The nurses injected him with morphine so the man could sleep without pain. The dope kicked in, and Andrew Jackson fell asleep. The next day, June 18, 1845, Andrew Jackson would be gone. The cause of death will be the 2 lead bullets he carried in his body for almost half of his life. Write in the comments what you think of the controversial figure of the 7th President of the United States. And don't forget to like this video.